Welcome to Camp Constitution Radio with your host, Hal Shurtleff. This show is heard on WBCQ The Planet every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's broadcast out of Monticello, Maine in the beautiful Aroostook County. It's also heard on IPMNation.org Saturday afternoons, I think at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This particular show comes out of Concord, New Hampshire. It's a 24-hour online news service. You can also listen to the show on YouTube. What we do is we don't simulcast live, but we'll download the MP3 format and convert it to a YouTube video. And we have many of our shows archived on the Camp Constitution YouTube channel. This show is brought to you by Camp Constitution, which, among other things, hosts a week and a day-long family camp. Next year's camp starts July 2nd, a Sunday afternoon, and ends July 9th, Sunday morning. And the camp is held at the beautiful Towanippi Christian Retreat Center in Ringe, New Hampshire, which is in the southwest corner of the state. We got some great, exciting things going on, already planned for that week, including Larry Pratt. He's the head of Gun Owners of America. He'll be there for hopefully a day or two. And this is Chris Ann Hall. This will be her fourth year at camp. And we will hopefully be touring the Uncle Sam house on July 4th, the boyhood home of Sam Wilson. What better place to be on July 4th? And we have some fun things lined up, too, for entertainment. We're going to have the Flying Frisbee Dogs July 4th. The gentleman I met at a Cheshire Fair a couple of years ago, he's going to bring his crew of dogs, and quite entertaining. So learn more about us on campconstitution.net. You'll also see the Sam Blumenfeld archive. The archive is the writings and works and recordings, speeches, lectures of the late Sam Blumenfeld. And what you could, probably the highlight of the archive is Sam's Alpha Phonics, where you can use, it's a workbook in a PDF format where you can teach people how to read. And not only is the workbook there, and there's 128 lessons that are both in audio and video that Sam did a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, thanks to Bill McNally of the Sam Blumenfeld Literacy Foundation. Well, but it's been a very interesting presidential election season. Once the two candidates for both major parties were chosen after the conventions, Donald J. Trump and Hillary Rodham Clinton. And you also have some what you'd call minor parties. You have Gary Johnson, Libertarian candidate for president, and his vice president, Bill Weld, and then you have Jill Stein of the Green Party, and you also have the Constitution Party. And so there's the minor parties, and some people are not too crazy about both major candidates, and I get that. I can understand that. But we have to understand that all presidential elections are important. We also have to realize that the president is not the most powerful person in the world, and if Congress was doing its job, who becomes president shouldn't be of that great concern. But probably over the last 100 years, little by little, Congress has been slowly giving its power, its duties, to the office, the executive branch. Now, when you watch these debates, either during the primary or between Clinton and Trump, you very seldom hear anything about a job description of president. I'll hear people, well, he doesn't look presidential, or she doesn't look presidential, or this and that. But you say, well, what exactly? Ask the average person out there, what is the job description? And where do we find it? Well, folks, let me answer that. It's a very simple answer. It's found in the Constitution of the United States of America, and more specifically, Article 2. And people would be surprised to learn that the president has few duties and powers. And I'm going to read them. It won't take long. You'll find this in Section 2, and you can make notes of this. And in fact, pull out your own Constitution and look for it. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and the militia of the several states when called into actual service of the United States. We really don't have a militia in the strict sense. We have something called a National Guard, which it's been a de facto replacement, but that's another topic which we actually have discussed. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon him. In fact, in those days, there weren't that many, upon subjects relating to the duties of their respective offices. And he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Okay, not too many so far. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. And he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and councils, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise prohibited, for and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may, by law, vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law or the heads of departments. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. And so, for example, if the Secretary of State resigns, the President can appoint sort of an acting Secretary of State until the Senate comes back, and then at that point they would vote on whether vote on it. Article 2, Section 3. He shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union. And this is usually done in mid to late January of every year. And he shall judge necessarily and expedient. He may on extraordinary occasions convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. This is probably the most important duty he has, to make sure that the laws are properly executed, faithfully executed, and shall commission all the offices of the United States. And Section 4 goes into the impeachment. The other power he has, which you'll find in Article 1, Section 7, is to approve of the laws coming out of Congress, and he can either veto the bill, the law, or the bill becomes a law once he signs it, and if he does veto it, it can be overturned by 2/3 of the House and Senate. So you see, that's his job description. That's it. Doesn't sound like much. I would imagine if you ask the average person what his job description is. Actually, it's kind of interesting, too. It says he. So I'm wondering if Hillary Clinton, under this Constitution, is constitutionally ineligible, unless the he is more of a generic. That should be interesting. Anyway, we are going to be very busy with Camp Constitution, and we've got a lot of things coming up. We've created a Speakers Bureau, and right now we just have a handful of people on that bureau. You can go to the website and see who is available. We're going to be adding to that. And what we want to do is we want to make these speakers available to anybody, really anywhere in the world. I would think mostly in the Northeast, Midwest, South, hopefully Central, Mountain, and Pacific parts of this country. We have Earl Wallace, Reverend Stevie Kraft, Dr. Kishore, and myself. We're going to be adding to some. Some of the speakers we'll be adding may be limited to their availability if they're working a regular job or have a business, to maybe weekends or, case-by-case basis. Yes, we also added Tom DeWeese. And what we're doing is, when we don't have a big bureaucracy, we're not going to have all kinds of red tape in order to book a speaker. We're looking at, you contact the speaker and make arrangements. If you're interested in one of the speakers, you call that, say, I'm interested in having Reverend Kraft talk about race and politics, and call him and say, look, this is what this is what we'll pay you. This is what will cover your expenses. We'll give you an honorarium. You can sell your books, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So And then the speaker will give basically the camp a finder's fee. So it's really just to get more people involved and get a lot of organizations are looking to have speakers, and we want to make that available. We also will be doing our own speaking engagements, and we have some things lined up actually later on this month in October in Greater Boston, Massachusetts. We're going to have Dr. Duke Pesta, who's an expert on Common Core. Just go to YouTube and put in Duke Pesta Common Core, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But he's going to be speaking Friday, October 28th in Weymouth, Massachusetts. That's in the South Shore at 12:30 at the Hearth and Kettle Restaurant, 151 Main Street. And by the way, all of these events should be posted on the Facebook page, Camp Constitution's Facebook page, so you can see the details. This event, all these events are free admission. This will be a luncheon type meeting. No, just order off the menu. We would like an RSVP, but that's not necessary. Then on Saturday, the 29th of October at 1 o'clock. Oh, I'm sorry. Also on the 28th, they'll be speaking in Wilbraham, Massachusetts, which is near Springfield, and that event will be taking place at the Wilbraham High School. There will be a 7 o'clock, and if you're interested in that one, you can call Dan Alley at 413-455-6186, and that will be at the Minnechaug, Minnechaug Regional High School Auditorium, Wilbraham, Massachusetts, at 621 Main Street in Wilbraham, which is just outside of Springfield. Then on Saturday at 1 o'clock, Mattapan, Massachusetts, that's a section of Boston, at the Mattapan Library. And that will be, that's on Blue Hill Avenue, just a little bit north of Mattapan Square on the right. I don't have the exact street number, but it's easy to get to. And then on Sunday, that will be October 30th, he will be speaking at the Toa-Nippie Christian Retreat Center. That's where our camp is held, and it will be at 3 p.m., and that is on Old Ashburnham Road in Rindge, New Hampshire, a 3 o'clock meeting. And you can just give me a call or just show up if you live in the area. My number is 857-498-1309. And again, all these are free admission. We're going to be, of course, passing the hat. And in November, we are actually going up to Maine, and we'll be up in the Aroostook County area. We're going to have two speakers on this event. It's going to be our Camp Constitution's Reverend Kraft and Dr. Kishore. We're calling these engagements the drug card and the race card, a deadly hand. And Dr. Kishore will be giving these will be about 30 to 35 minutes each. All of these meetings are in the evening, so we don't want to go long, I should say, except for Saturday. It will be a Saturday morning engagement. But we're going to start off at the Saco Library in Saco, Maine, or the Dwyer Library. That will be November 16 at 6:30. We got to do it a little bit early because the library closes at 8. We have to be out of there promptly. And that's also on Main Street, the Dyer Library, right next to the Historical Society. And then we haven't booked the 17th yet, but we plan to be in Lincoln, Maine. We usually use the American Legion up there, the VFW. I'm not sure which one, so that's to be determined. But then on the 18th, this will be Friday, November 18th, in Holton, Maine. And Holton, of course, is where Route 95, Interstate 95, ends, the northern terminal. It's going to be at Tang's Chinese Cuisine at 60 North Street. That's also Route 1. If you're heading up 95, get off the first Holton exit, and it's just a short distance on the right. And another place where you order off the menu. And then Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in Presque Isle, 350 Main Street, the the governor's restaurant, and that will be a breakfast meeting. You show up, order off the menu. And we're really excited about that. We had an incredible good time. Just a few weeks ago, at a press conference in the state capital of Augusta was Reverend Kraft talking about race and the drug issue. And it seems to be that the people on the left in Maine, I'm not saying all the people on the left, but especially the media, I think they'd rather see people die of the drug issue and the governor leave. They have more hatred for the governor, it seems, than they do in the hatred of the drug plague, the addiction, because they're just going after him viciously. And it's interesting too. These progressive freethinker types are supposed to be anti-establishment, but you'll see that they're doing the bidding of the drug cartels or the drug. I call it the medical mafia. And what do I mean by that? I've discussed this before. Well, big pharma and big government work together. In fact, the late Reverend Rushdoony, the great Calvinist theologian, said that organized crime could not exist without government's complacency or involvement. The same thing with these big, and when I say a corporation, I don't mean a small entity struggling. Of course, the word corporation simply means a body, an entity. But we're talking about billions of dollars of these huge multinational drug companies that make a lot of money off addiction. It's quite profitable to keep people hooked, and it's also profitable to try to get them unhooked. So on one hand, big pharma and half the people that are addicted in this country are addicted to prescription drugs, or close to half. The other half, of course, the illegal stuff that's coming in this country, and they don't seem to have any great desire to stop it from coming in, because you have to stop the demand, and that's the critical thing too. So Big Pharma decides that methadone and Suboxone will be the two drugs that they decide to use to treat addicts, and nothing else. That's about it. And if you don't subscribe to the use of methadone and Suboxone, you are a pariah, and you will be destroyed. And that's what happens. And I could give another example of how the so-called progressives always side with big business, even though they claim to be against it. This is unrelated to the drug issue, but it's an Agenda 21 issue in New London. Oh, this was about over 10 years ago. A big drug company was going to expand in New London, and they took a bunch of property by eminent domain. Well, wait a minute now. Eminent domain is not supposed to be for private entities. It's supposed to be for public entities, government entities, and the purpose would be to build a road or something like that, and the people would be compensated for the land. But U.S. Supreme Court and the progressives all went in favor of Big Pharma, and they said that this is legitimate because it's going to increase the tax base of New London, and therefore it's okay to take the property of people by force. And it was called the Kelo case, K-I, no pun intended, with the drug issue. That was Suzette Kelo, who there was a few others that didn't want to sell. And the drug company never built their expanded their program, their company. And today that land they got by eminent domain is basically a brownfield. But big government wins in the Supreme Court. All the so-called progressives, the Supreme Court went along with Big Pharma. So I think you'd be very interested in listening, hearing these people. And this presentation is available in other parts of the country. Again, you just have to give us a heads up, and we'll be happy to make this available. Now, we've been pretty busy. Some of you may have heard the show about a month, or maybe 2 months ago, where I used to be a full-time employee of an organization, and I was given an ultimatum to leave the camp program or leave this entity. And I thought it was unjustified, but nevertheless, I couldn't do what they asked. I won't go into the details, but right now we're trying to create a full-time position for me as a Camp Constitution director, and we're about 25% of the way there. We have to be able to justify our salary. I wish I could do it free of charge, but I get I got a family to feed and expenses. And I believe that anyone who's making a donation, some of this will, within a short time, sort of pay for itself. And let me give you an example. We were invited, actually, by a family that attends the camp, they live in Hyde Park, New York, or they go to a church, or I should say they use the church in Hyde Park, New York, to host an all-day program. This will be Friday, October 14th, and I gave 4 presentations, and Reverend Stevie Kraft gave 1 presentation, and they showed a couple of DVDs. It was a long day, but it was a great day. We didn't have a huge turnout, and it was almost like a day of camp, but we had a lot of homeschoolers there, about 45 to 50 homeschoolers and their parents, and a lot of these people are very new to us and learning about our camp for the first time. And I was very impressed by the caliber, not just of the young people, but the adults. And we, let's see what we did. The overview of our world video was shown. That's a half-hour presentation. And then I spoke on I gave an introduction to the Constitution, or Know Your Constitution. Gave copies of the Constitution to everybody, and I discussed it. Went over that 10-question quiz, which I've used on previous shows. The quiz that we use at these fairs or homeschool shows. Sort of an outreach, get people to the table, take the quiz, get a free Constitution. And then we had the Reverend Kraft did his presentation on morality and freedom. They showed Chris Ann Hall, her presentation. It was on the Constitution and Declaration. The roots of the Constitution. She went into the history of England and the various things that happened in England that influenced our founding fathers, the Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights. That's on YouTube, and they showed the video from the YouTube. And then I gave a presentation on threats to the Constitution, which I think I did one that may already be on our Camp Constitution YouTube channel. And then I gave a presentation that evening on Agenda 21. And I haven't done it. Oh, I also gave a presentation on Camp Constitution, so the history and the goals of Camp Constitution. I did a similar one in Marlborough, Massachusetts, back in May, which is a fundraiser. So you can see that we're going to be posting some of these videos up on YouTube in the next few days. So hopefully you get a chance to watch them. And so what we're trying to do here at the Camp Constitution is we're trying to raise the funds, and we're about 25% of the way there. We're looking for annual or monthly commitments. You know, people that would pledge X amount of dollars every month or every year. And, we get a few people making, somewhat sizable contributions. But we're really relying on a lot of smaller donations. If we get 1,000 people to do $5 a month, or 100 people that do 25, or combinations of all these, you can go to our camp website and just the PayPal button, and you can make a contribution, and it'll be a little place there to make it monthly. Now, what will be the return on this investment in freedom? You say, okay, why would I? But there's so many worthy causes out there, and I'll say, don't take your funds away from the church to give it to me, or the pantry to give it to the camp. Those things are important, but we think people who should be learning about our Constitution, this is important too. So these are the things we'll be working on. We'll be trying to, I shouldn't say try, we will, in the next few years, create a few other camp programs. This could be a week-long camp. This could be a weekend camp. This could be a 2 or 3 day camp. It all depends on the interest in the local communities where we'll be presenting these. So that's the plan, to expand the camp. The other plan is to be at a lot more homeschool shows with a presence. And at these homeschool shows, it's not just a place to find people to come to camp, but we're out there helping these homeschoolers, supplementing their programs. We're helping them to learn about the Constitution. We can do workshops at these homeschool shows. So right now, we do 2, 3. I think we do 3 homeschool shows on an annual basis. One in New Hampshire, one in Maine. One in Massachusetts, the Mass Hope. One in Maine, and one in New Jersey. We'd like to expand that. We could probably do 10 to 12 homeschool shows. The homeschool sort of the circuit. They start in the early spring and go until the early summer or late spring for the most part. That's when most homeschool shows do their thing. And we'll be doing information tables at other fairs and flea markets, and we have been invited to a lot of different other organizations, and that's going to continually happen. And we will be involved. We will have a presence there as well. I got a chance to, this event that happened in Hyde Park, New York, the week before that, or I should say early in mid-September, I spoke at the New Hampshire National Center for Constitutional Studies, and there'll be other opportunities to do these sort of things. We also are in the process of creating something called Constitution Clubs. This would be gatherings in the local community. It could be at a local library. It could be at a person's home. And we'll have young people, middle-aged and old people. They will not only will they learn about the Constitution, but they will become activists. They'll be, we'll have some type of monthly agenda items. We're not just going to sit there and learn stuff, but go out there and spread the word. We may encourage the local club to inform people about the dangers of an Article 5 convention, the danger of a Common Core, Agenda 21, and the many other important issues. And this wouldn't be, we don't want to have a lot of bureaucracy, but this will be informal, and of course this only happens when people help us financially. So if you're a business, you can become a camp sponsor. We do plan to upgrade our website and have banner ads, but right now we have a lot of people who are in the business community that make donations, and if you do that, you can actually look at it as an ad. Become a sponsor. It's a legitimate tax write-off, or just go to the Camp Constitution website. You see the PayPal button, and make a pledge. Make a pledge for $5, $10, whatever you can do. Whatever, pray on it, and whatever you can do to help us. I let other people know about this too. The money also goes to. We want to expand this radio show. We like to do this maybe once a day, or find other markets, other venues to have this show. We're going to be publishing more things. Well, we do have some items that we publish. We'd like to do more of that, bring some things into print that have been out of print that are necessary. There's one thing I'd like to put back into print. It's called Colored Patriots of the Revolutionary War. It's public domain. There's also things that we need to publish, contemporary things dealing with issues. And we have a lot of talented people in our ranks, and we have people who are more than happy to let us publish these things. I spoke to a few people the last few days about publishing books that they have in articles and pamphlets, etc. So that only will happen if we get more people involved. And, it's interesting. We meet people all the time, and they lament that young people are not learning these things that they were taught, and what's going to happen if we don't do this, etc. Well, we're making an impact. We're just a small entity right now, but from little acorns, from little acorns, mighty oak trees grow. And even the small, as small as we are, I like to think we've had a really good impact, a very positive impact, well beyond our numbers. And so again, consider, pray on it, and help Camp Constitution grow. Help us create camps all over the country. Help us get not just hundreds, but hundreds of thousands of people more understanding of the Constitution. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter who wins. It does matter who wins this presidential election and the congressional elections. But if we had more constitutionalists at all levels of government, we wouldn't matter so much who becomes president. We wouldn't be sitting there worrying about, my goodness, Hillary Clinton's going to nominate some bad Supreme Court justices. It's the end of the world if that happens, because people wouldn't realize the proper role of government, and they will not enforce bad decisions. Governors and state legislators will say no to this federal overreach. Congressmen will say, no, okay, Obama or Hillary or Mr. President Trump, we're not going to fund that. You just get an executive order, but guess what? You're not getting the money to implement it. So those are the things we need. Anyway, you've been listening to Camp Constitution Radio with your host, Hal Shurtleff. Thank you for listening, and God bless.